Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
We are ready for the event.
MSNBC, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Hi, I'm here. Do you want me to count to 10?
Nope, that is just fine. We can hear you loud and clear.
Great. Hello, Commander Kelly and Flight Engineer Kornienko. Great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this for us. I'm going to let's start off by, why don't you, Commander Kelly? You've been in space for hundreds of days. What do you miss most about life on Earth, and what are you looking forward to when you return?
So, well, we've been in space now for over 230 days, I think. Not that I'm counting, but I'm not counting that closely. As far as the things I miss on Earth, certainly, the human contact, your friends, your family, people that are important to me, and I'm probably speaking for Misha as well. It's very important to him. I also miss the ability to go outside, the weather, the sun on your face, the breeze, the things that, Earth has to offer in that regards that we don't have up here, being, in this very contained and controlled environment for a long period of time.
And Commander Kelly, what's it like to spend so much time in space, in terms of the psychological effects, the physical effects, if you can sort of speak to that?
Well, spending a lot of time in space, whether it's 6 months, which is our normal mission duration, or a year, is not really an easy thing to do. Although the space station is pretty big, we can never leave. It's we go out on spacewalks, but occasionally, in the course of the year I'm here, I've done 2. That might be it. But that's really getting into a smaller spaceship than the one you're currently in. So it's it's a enclosed environment. You're always at work. So even though you do have some downtime, when you go to sleep at night, you're still at your place of employment, and when you wake up in the morning, you're right there. So the environment and the pace of our work is not easy, but it's obviously something that at least I feel privileged to do. I enjoy the challenge of it, but it's not an easy environment to live in.
And Flight Engineer Kornienko, if I could ask you, what do you miss most about life on Earth, and what's it like to spend so much time up in space?
Господин Корниенко, хотела бы вас спросить, что для вас значит столько времени проводить в космосе?
Конечно, проводить в космосе столько времени, это не так просто, как сказал мой друг и коллега и командир Скотт. Но в первую очередь для меня это работа.
Well, as my friend and colleague Scott said, the main thing is to do our job well, and we can do it because our crew members are our friends and we work as one.
Commander Kelly, I've been sort of monitoring your Twitter feed and your Instagram page, which is really just beautiful, stunning photos from space. And are there a particular series of photos or cities that you've captured during this mission that really struck you, or are you seeing things from space that you haven't seen before?
So, being up here for a long time really gives you an opportunity to look at the Earth, which is a very beautiful place. Of course, there are certain parts of it that, at least from this perspective, are more striking than others. Which, is interesting that, for instance, the deserts are, incredibly beautiful and whether it's in Africa, Australia, or even certain parts of Asia. And then the blue water of the Bahamas, for instance, is quite striking in color, but also in how large of an area it is. That is that blue. But then the other things that you notice when you look out at the Earth is how how thin and fragile the atmosphere looks. You notice in certain parts of the world how a lot of the cities are obscured by almost constant pollution. We see weather systems, extremes of weather that are occurring in places that they're not. You normally don't see them. I saw this. I took some pictures of a tropical cyclone that was off the coast of Oman in the Middle East recently, which is almost unheard of to have such a large tropical storm in that area. So the Earth is very beautiful to look at from here, but there also have the the window on the world, so to speak, to see certain things that are a little bit alarming.
So, speaking to that, have you been able to sort of see firsthand, like, can you see climate change happening from your point of view based on your previous missions? Can you see parts of the Earth that have changed? And yeah, what goes through your mind when you see stuff like that?
So, I don't know if we notice, climate change, I think, in the way you're thinking of it, like, temperature. Obviously, we can't see a temperature rise here. We can't see the sea levels, rising. I did notice one time, which was actually in the middle of the winter. I saw an iceberg that was, floating, and I could see it with my naked eye, which meant it was pretty large, which I thought was probably in a place that was sort of unexpected, especially in the southern hemisphere, in the in the winter in the southern hemisphere, our summer in the northern hemisphere. But like I said, you do see things like pollution where it's almost constantly obscuring, certain parts of the world. You see, like I said, some storms where you wouldn't expect them. Fires in the U.S., all summer, like, the whole western part of the United States, you could see the obscuration due to the smoke that was almost constant. And so I think we notice the effects of our impact on the climate, but I'm not sure if we could say, it's climate change like the way you might be thinking.
And what would you want people on Earth to know about this mission and what you've discovered? What's one sort of headline takeaway of what you've learned while aboard the International Space Station?
So, we're always learning a lot up here. We've been flying the space station now for 15 years. We do an incredible amount of science, over 400 different science experiments over the course of the year that I'll be here in all different, scientific disciplines. As far as our mission and the science related to it, we're still, that's ongoing, and the data will be analyzed. Even after we get back, we still have data collection to do on the ground. And, I'm sure we will learn a lot more than we currently know about the effects on the human body and our ability to, mitigate those effects for future long-duration flight. But I think, the one thing I already know, and, being up here for this length of time has made that even more obvious to me, is that our capability to live and operate in space for long periods of time and, do that with the, the amount of rigor and, attention to detail will allow us to go to Mars someday, and that's something that we're still learning. But we have a really great head start by having this foothold in low Earth orbit that will eventually be a large part of why we are successful someday going to Mars.
Commander Kelly and Flight Engineer Kornienko, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the MSNBC portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from AOL.com.
Station, this is AOL.com. How do you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear. Welcome aboard.
Hello, I'm Alicia, an editor for AOL.com. Thank you so much for taking a break out of your very busy day to speak with us. For our users joining us live on AOL.com, Commander Scott Kelly and Flight Engineer Mikhail Kornienko are speaking to us live from the International Space Station, where they've been working for almost 8 months as part of the groundbreaking one-year mission. Scott, can you tell us where the space station is located right this second?
I can look at our map here. Let me see where we are located. It's hard to tell. We are in the southern hemisphere, going along the west coast of South America, headed south. So kind of along the Andes Mountains.
Scott, Mikhail, you're both part of NASA's one-year mission, collecting tons of data on how living in space for prolonged periods impacts the human mind and body. What changes have you noticed after 234 days? Is there anything that you didn't expect?
Вы являетесь участниками годового полета, и какие вы заметили изменения, может быть, в вашем организме или в том, как вы думаете?
So a lot of the science we do involves data collection that uses imaging technology, ultrasound, other types of scientific instruments that look at our eyes. Once we get home, we'll have MRIs and CAT scans on various parts of our body. Places that measure bone density. So as far as noticing like how much bone I may have lost, or effect on like muscle mass, for instance, the effects of radiation, that's not something that we would actually notice while we're here, but we would learn about when we get home, and that's understood. As far as my vision, so far so good. I did have changes last time, and I would probably expect that they would be, a similar effect, which is pretty good considering I will have been up here, more than twice as long. The other thing I've learned or I've noticed is that a year is a really long time. We've been up here almost 8 months now, and I, not speaking for Misha, but for me, I feel like I've lived my whole life up here, and still, we still have more than 3 months ahead of us. So. But, at the same time, we're still able to do our work and do it with enough enthusiasm and energy to get the job done. So I guess that's something I've learned a little bit since I've been here.
As to myself, of course, there are changes in the body, for example, related to the musculoskeletal system, and we are counteracting this by doing physical exercises. We have a good gym on the station. And as I noticed for myself, I have a better near vision. I'm not sure what's the reason for that. The scientists will tell me later. Thank you.
So what's the coolest thing each of you can do in a microgravity environment? And can you show us?
I don't know if it's cool, but we can flip around pretty good after being up here for so long with like no hands. I can fly around really fast if I want to, but that's you know, can be somewhat dangerous. Here goes one of our crew members, Kjell Lindgren, just flying through the scene, doing some work. So, on one hand, it's it's fun to float around, and but on the other hand, it makes most of the stuff you do a lot harder. Work-wise, you have to keep track of everything, and but if you wanted to move something that was very heavy, it'd be a lot easier than on Earth.
Okay, and we have a question from Twitter for both of you. How do you stay mentally strong on your mission?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think NASA and our partner agencies have a pretty good selection process for deciding like who they're going to send up here as astronauts and cosmonauts. We also do some training in team living, teamwork, leadership, followership, those kind of things that are critical, skills to have for operating effectively in such a challenging environment. So I think for most of us anyway, when we get here, we're pretty well prepared for, staying mentally strong during this type of mission. But, occasionally you might get, a little bit, I wouldn't say depressed, but, you might not feel 100% at times. And I think it's important to just put, the whole thing in perspective and, understand the importance of what you're doing. And, eventually I'll, be home someday. So that helps a little bit.
Scott, for the first time in 4 years, NASA is accepting applications for more astronauts in preparation for travel to Mars. What qualities do you think an ideal candidate should have to make a successful journey to Mars?
Good question. As far as our selection process, there's certain skills that are required and certain types of academic background, generally speaking, science or engineering. NASA selects civilians as they also select people in the military. I was in the Navy, and I was a Navy pilot. So I think for the person that goes to Mars, certainly the, an operational type of background will be important because, even though this is a space station, and it's not like an airplane, we don't fly it like an airplane. It does have very sophisticated systems that are, related to one another, and it takes kind of an operational mindset in some respect to deal with those systems and, especially to repair them. On this space station, we're it. So if something breaks, whether it's the electrical system or our, the hardware that removes the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, we have to fix it. If there's a science experiment, we are the ones that conduct it. Computer problems, we have to take care of those too. Now, there's a lot of people on the ground that help us with those, but if it actually requires a person to do it, then we're the ones we have to do it. Fortunately, right now we have a doctor on board, but if he gets sick, one of us has to be his doctor. So I think someone that's kind of somewhat of a jack of all trades in those kind of areas is very important. But also, I think what is critical is teamwork and being able to work with as part of a team, and it's a diverse team. We have it'll be probably an international effort, and getting along with and working well with your international colleagues will be very important.
Scott, Mikhail, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a pleasant day.
Our pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you, MSNBC and AOL.com. Station, we're now resuming operational audio communications.